Content warning, gambling disorder. If you think you might have a problem, consult your physician or therapist or consider reaching a helpline below. Additionally, this is all for educational purposes as I am now discovering these topics. I am not a doctor or a psychologist. Please consult a professional for more clear diagnoses and opinions. When I was a young lad, I watched a week-long program on cable television talking about Las Vegas. They called it Vegas Week, and I was enamored with all the glitz and glamour. But amongst it all was a special program called Las Vegas Sucker Bets, which gave the inside scoop on how casinos really made their money. As a teenage nerd who liked the inside scoop on things with a slight propensity for math and an interest in secrets, I was in. I learned all about house edge and the purpose of free alcohol, and how casual gamblers make decisions, and how winning players make decisions, and I thought, man, what a stupid way for a business to make money. Collecting earnings based on people making bad bets and not being able to calculate their odds. Later on, I became a game developer, and I felt like I didn't have to deal with those business models anymore.
Video game. The app for Robinhood is basically like a video game, right?
Well, a really shitty one. You know.
Oh.
Okay, would you have as much fun gambling if you were doing it off stream than on stream?
Yeah, I gamble every day. I lost 2 million this month.
Really?
I lost 1.85 million this month.
Guys, don't gamble.
Oh no, that's not good.
Offline, you always have to go down before you go up. You'll be 13.
We have a problem. Fantasy sports, sports betting, online casinos, mobile stock trading, NFTs. This is a problem. Why? Well, it turns out there's big money in gambling, but not for you.
Quarter of 2021, DraftKings revenue rose 60% from the year prior to $213 million. During that same period, with mobile betting launching in several states, the number of its monthly unique paying customers rose 31%. The online sports betting market in the US is expected to be worth nearly $40 billion by 2033.
And also, since there is big money, are we just throwing away our money? How does this stuff really work, anyway? Here's a little bit of a breakdown here, explaining how players can win in the short term while the house wins in the long term.
This is called the drop. The casino has an edge on the players of 5.26% on the roulette table. There are even and odd numbers and black and red colors, but there is also a green 0 and sometimes another green 00. As the casino always has this advantage, it will win. It doesn't want to bankrupt you too quickly though, so it takes its time. Let's say you're making $5 bets every spin of the wheel, and the wheel spins about 50 times an hour. That means in an hour, you bet $250. You didn't lose every time, of course. After 4 hours, you bet around $1,000. The casino takes 5% of all the money bet, meaning you didn't lose $5, but $50. The more you play, the more you lose.
So to recap, there's the house edge of the odds per play, and then there's the winnings over the long run that the casino makes. No matter what you're playing, the more you play, the more you lose over time. And their goal is to keep you playing. As we mentioned, the house always wins, with a house edge of up to 29% in Keno, and down to 1% in perfect play blackjack, craps, and baccarat, although perfect play is boring as sin, as it were. And these statistics are as per Investopedia. Similar principles apply in places like the stock market or other investments.
You ever play 3-card money?
Yes.
So it's a bunch of people that are in on a game, and then you walk up and go, I got this. The ace is right under there. I saw it. They're counting on you, not knowing what you're doing, so that your money is fueling their adventure.
That's bad enough, but furthermore, these times of high speculative investment are exacerbated by market bubbles, of which, of course, the Dutch Tulip bubble was considered the first recorded speculative bubble, also known as Tulip mania. And if you want to see more on that, you can check out this extra history video on Tulip mania here, non-fungible tulips. And even with these emerging topics, these are just the latest chapter of a long line of behaviors and phenomena that go back centuries and perhaps millennia. This is a timeless issue. Gambling with cards on the left is not so different from loot boxes on the right. And it has been said that history repeats itself. This is perhaps not quite correct. It merely rhymes. So even as we are trying to discuss the latest version of these topics, they are still emerging today. Crypto and NFTs are in various stages of collapse as of reading this. So let's take a look at the bigger picture to see how this is part of a larger trend. For instance, gambling is not only exacerbated by market forces, but psychological biases and factors. For instance, on Travel Channel Sucker Bets, the history board in Roulette is the biggest sucker bet of them all. Simply by thinking you can predict future results based on past results when you're passing by, this was one of the most effective ways to get people confident in their latest bet. Sometimes people say they're on a hot streak, or they gotta keep playing while the dice are hot, and sometimes these are people who are in charge of investing people's money. But this, of course, is a logical fallacy. This is called the hot hand fallacy. Look at it this way. People may reach the conclusion that the opposite is true. If Krusty the Clown thinks the Harlem Globetrotters have had a winning streak for too long, he concluded that it was more likely to break over time.
Let me get this straight. You took all the money you made franchising your name and bet it against the Harlem Globetrotters?
I thought the generals were due! He's spinning the ball on his finger! Just take it! Take the ball! That game was fixed.
So to be clear, in games of chance, there's no hot hands or things being due. Each event occurs independently of each other. So let's take a look at the effects of gambling disorder on the brain and explain it with science. Yes, science!
Gambling addiction is not a failure of will. It is a brain disorder which is preyed upon by the gambling industry.
Honestly, I can feel my heartbeat just rising, just looking at the damn thing.
Once you become addicted, it's very, very hard to stop because you've changed your brain. Addiction is a brain that has changed. The brain's not very active. Maybe a little bit here. He's thinking at what shall I do? But it's pretty calm. Contrast that with what happens in the next one. And
that's a huge difference from
indeed
there to there.
Exactly.
So that's in a matter of seconds as well, would it be?
Exactly.
Or?
Absolutely, yes. Okay. So here we see the visual system, the back of the brain here, intensely activated. He's watching really closely. He wants that ball bearing to come down on his color. And now we look at the emotional regions. And these are different regions activated. This is the anterior cingulate cortex. This is the insular. And these are the two areas of the brain which make sense of emotions. They may generate the emotion he's feeling of excitement. Will I win? Won't I win? And here we see a very similar picture. In fact, the only real difference between winning and anticipating is this area here.
Some important takeaways here are that 1. The addicted mind is fundamentally altered on a physical level, which can be reverted over time, and that the anticipation of winning is as activating as the winning itself. So some other questions that come up here are, what actually counts as gambling disorder? Noted throughout history, even without science, various world religions would have knowledge of and stances against the sins of gambling, ranging from some denominations of Christianity and Islam forbidding gambling outright, to some religions limiting it to certain contexts, like not allowing underage children to participate, or simply recommending against it as it distracts from higher virtues. Extreme cases of gambling have been recognized by psychological associations as problem gambling, gambling disorder, ludomania, and they have often defined it as repetitive gambling behavior despite harmful and negative consequences. According to the DSM-5, which is widely recognized as the official manual on psychological disorders, an individual must have at least 4 of the following symptoms in a 12-month period. Gambling with increasing amounts of money, increasing restlessness or irritability, increasing preoccupation with gambling, chasing of one's losses, lying to conceal the extent of one's gambling, jeopardizing or losing a significant relationship or job or educational opportunity, and relying on others to provide money, things like that. To note, these gambling disorders are often comorbid with other conditions such as alcohol addiction, video game addiction, obsessive compulsive disorder, and may be affected by genetic factors, friends and family, history of trauma, anxiety, and mental health disorders. And yes, bringing it into our current day and age, there's definitely interest in research drawing parallels between gambling addiction, social media, and admittedly gaming addiction, since these are not substance-based addictions but behavioral addictions. And just to be clear, it is possible in our modern world to be addicted to behaviors and have addictions based on behaviors that are not based on substances. And for more information on social media addiction and how to treat it, check out my video on doom scrolling. So what does the personal side look like when all those factors work together to create a gambling disorder? Here's an excerpt from a piece by The Guardian on video poker addiction, and as a warning, this does get pretty dark.
By about 1995, 96, I did start hearing about people losing their savings, maxing out credit cards, losing everything, you know, their houses, on poker machines. And you're sitting there in the same place as the rest of them, next to them even, and you're thinking, well, that'll never happen to me. As if I'm way too smart for that. And then you start losing, of course. At the heart of my addiction, my husband didn't matter. My friends, my own children, they didn't matter. Even the night that my husband left, I knew I would kind of have to feed the beast. And there I was, on my hands and knees, picking up 5 and 10 cent pieces off the ground. My 7-year-old daughter is out of bed helping me, handing me fistfuls of change.
And that was one woman's story about the devastating effects of problem gambling. If you want to see more about that, there's a link to that video by The Guardian at the end of this video. Again, if you think you may have a problem, consult your physician or mental health provider, or consider reaching a helpline below. So, what's happening? Why is this being allowed to happen? What's going on? So, one aspect of this is that new technology is being used to escape or elude regulation by obfuscating what's exactly is happening and hiding details on how these things are not surefire ways to make money. Also, there's a lack of education around these issues, lack of options for treatment, lots of stigma for treatment, lack of systemic support. One could argue there's some amount of personal responsibility for individuals, but I would say there's probably more issues from the systemic side. We're in a time of increasing income inequality, and top earners have a greater portion of the wealth, whereas the bottom percent haven't seen the benefits of economic growth during this growing economy. So people are seeking more options to maintain a certain lifestyle, or even just maintain basic necessities during a time where it's harder and harder to get those opportunities. So maybe there is a reason why people see the appeal of playing Dokji with Gong Yu in Squid Game here.
One more round.
And we're seeing a lack of regulation by regulators and policymakers in the tech sector and in the relevant industries. Why is that happening, or not happening as it were? So this is all to say this just begs a lot of questions. Or who is being targeted by online gambling? Maybe it has an image of people who look like this, but maybe not. And who are the ones who suffer in a society? There's evidence that this stuff can have cascading effects, such as affecting the volatility in a country's financial markets. And just to leave an open question here, who benefits from all this? And by not regulating, what is the damage being done to the economy and the people, and why don't people in charge crack down or care? Is their feet just not to the fire? There's something that they're actually gaining from this that actually is actually a bigger deal than like what people can actually hold them accountable for? What exactly is happening there? What's the mechanism that would actually cause them to actually crack down on this kind of thing? There also may be emerging evidence that gambling disorder may also be affected by COVID-19. It might still be emerging, but It's definitely something that's being examined right now. And even beyond just gambling and stocks and other things like that, maybe this is part of a wider trend of other business models that might be based around exploiting people with the possibility of making money, but very low probability of making money, and based around selling shovels in a gold rush. Is that possible? I don't know. You tell me. So all that's to say, stay vigilant, stay informed, use that knowledge to help you and others you know to fight those animal urges and prevent yourself from becoming dancing puppets, and maybe, just maybe, be a little bit more well-informed about these situations in general. Stay curious, stay educated, and let your conscience be your guide. I hope to see you next time. Here's references for all the things we discussed today, and also feel free to check these links in the description below. And if you think you might have a problem, consult your physician or therapist, or consider reaching a helpline below.